Hi, my name is Simon Chalker. I'm a dentist who works in practice in Coventry. I've had a number of different types of eye surgery over the last few years. I've had corneal transplants and cataract operations done at Moorfields. So I know I'm a complicated case, and I was warned when I had previous eye surgery that I was at risk of retinal detachment, and I was given an idea of what to expect if that happened. Literally the day before Christmas Eve this year, last year, which would be 2020, I noticed a veil coming down over my right eye, almost like a grey transparency. I had one or two flashes prior to that, but they weren't very significant at all. So really the first time I knew there was something really wrong was this veil coming down, and it literally only took maybe a day or two and it had really sort of descended. So I went down to the local hospital. I phoned them first and they said, yes, come down. So I did. They took some photographs, and the registrar there diagnosed a retinal detachment. So this is, basically the 23rd of December 2020. And the retinal detachment, she said, was really, really quite advanced and almost taking my macula off, which meant that I needed to have some quite urgent surgery done. Unfortunately, being Christmas and all, it wasn't possible to arrange that surgery locally, or indeed at Birmingham. So I didn't know what to do for the best. And having been treated before at Moorfields, I felt it was perfectly appropriate to phone the hospital. So I did, and I got through to a very helpful on-duty registrar who took my details, my information, and said yes, he thought I would need to have some urgent surgery done, that he would speak to somebody about it, and that they would get back to me. Literally 5 minutes later, Mr. Muqit phoned me to say, yes, I understand there's a problem, and I get the impression it's a retinal detachment. Tell me about it. So I did, and he said, well, you will lose your sight unless it's operated on quite quickly. The soonest I could get it done in Coventry would have been 5 days, at which point I think I probably would have had a fully detached macula, and the prognosis for that is very poor. So Mr. Muqit said, come down to Moorfields the following day. So literally, I went to bed that night, got up at the crack of dawn, and myself and my wife drove down. And as I was driving through central London, literally this veil was going further and further down my eye, to the point where I couldn't see anything with my right eye other than a little bit of peripheral vision. So literally, as I understand it, my macula was coming off there and then. So on the day I arrived at Moorfields, Mr. Muqit had my phone number, so he was texting me to tell me where to go and which bit of the hospital to go to, and actually met me at the door. So having gone in, it's a slightly unusual situation with COVID and what have you, I suppose, but he met me at the door and he said, come up to this for the 4th floor. So I did, and went in there, and within a few minutes the anaesthetist had come in and said, right, this is what we want to do, let's check your medical history. And the anaesthetist was very helpful, and Mr. Muqit came in and took me out and did some diagnostic tests to make sure he knew what was going on, and sure enough, he confirmed a diagnosis of a detached retina, and he said he would do what he could to try and save my sight, and he was reasonably optimistic that things would be okay. So we went ahead with the surgery. I had an Embla patch put on my hand because I was going to be sedated. So literally probably an hour and a half from walking through the front door of the hospital, I was down in the theatre, being prepared. I had a small cannula put in for some sedation, just in the back of my hand, and I had the painless injection just to numb around my eye. I was then laid out on a hospital bed and wheeled into theatre. The surgery, I think, lasted about half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. All I could see was a couple of little lines in my right eye. Didn't feel any pain at all. It was all, you just lie there with the sedation, you don't feel anything, and it's really just there to make sure that you don't panic or anything like that, because you have to keep still. So the surgery was painless. I went back up to the room, and I was compos mentis enough to talk to my wife, and I felt fine. And I was discharged within probably another hour or so. Once I had some post-operative check, and we stayed in a hotel just over the road from Moorfields Hospital. And then the next day, which was Christmas Day by this time, Mr. Muqit saw me first thing in the morning to check that all was well, and it was. So we got in the car and went home. It was quite an experience because my children, who are late teens, early 20s, were at home, and we were having to try and cook Christmas dinner by remote control. So literally the kids were doing the cooking, and I was on the phone to them while we were driving back in the car. I went for, I had a couple of checks, or 3 checks I think, post-surgery, one a week afterwards, another one a month after that, and another one a month or so after that. And I can honestly say that my vision is now exactly as it was, to within a whisker, as it was pre-surgery, or pre the detached retina. I actually have 20/20 vision, and I feel so lucky that he was able to save my sight, because I know if I'd waited 5 days, my retina would have been completely detached, and the prognosis for ever seeing out of my right eye again would have been pretty poor. And if I had vision, it would not have been anywhere near the quality that it is now. I'm a dental surgeon, so I desperately needed my sight. If I didn't have sight in my right eye, I would have to have stopped working. I'm just so grateful that I've been able to work. It's COVID crazy still at the moment, but I'm working 5.5 days. 5.5 days a week. I do late evening. I do some Saturday mornings. I'm just working flat out as much as I can at the moment, and I'm just thank God and Mr. Muqit that I'm able to do so. My advice to anyone who has to have surgery is don't be afraid of it. It's eye surgery. I always said to myself, if I ever needed eye surgery, I think I'd rather just go blind. But actually, when you're in that position and you need to have it done, it's something that you just have to have done, and you've got to get your head around it. But actually, it was completely painless, and I've had several episodes of surgery over the last few years. It's completely painless. It's just a bit of sedation just to make sure that you can keep still. But you can have a chat with the surgeon while you're having the operation done. It's not scary at all. So my advice would be definitely have it done.